She didn't look like the kind of woman who would fall apart. Not Elena Carr. Tall, measured, always composed. Her dark brown hair, once her signature, was typically tied into a sleek bun. British-born with Spanish roots, she wore tailored blazers, soft neutrals, and the kind of heels that echoed authority without ever shouting. At Sable and Hart, people noticed when she walked into a room, not because she was loud, but because she was calculated. She didn't fidget, she didn't ramble. She looked at you like she'd already processed 3 outcomes of a conversation you hadn't started. She was that good. Or at least, she was, until the day she stopped looking people in the eye. It began in subtle ways. The way she lingered a little too long by the 3rd-floor printer. How she checked over her shoulder even when no one was around. The way her hands shook slightly while stirring her coffee, a tremor she thought no one noticed. But people notice everything in a glass office, especially when the walls don't really keep secrets, especially at Sable and Hart. They called it a brand transformation agency, but insiders knew transformation was a polite word for pressure. Every month had its scoreboard. Every quarter, a winner and a loser. And while no one said it aloud, the silent rule was clear. Don't be the reason your team fails. In the last quarter, Elena's team had come dangerously close to the bottom. She hadn't slept properly in weeks. She skipped lunch, stopped joining stand-ups. Her eyes, once sharp, now looked glassy, distant. Something was off. No one said anything, until the celebration. It was supposed to be a simple moment. A cupcake tray, a bottle of Prosecco, a polite gathering in the level 4 meeting room to congratulate Natalie's team for closing the Evergreen account. No fanfare, just a few claps, plastic glasses, a slideshow that looped the client's new logo. Elena stood near the back, not quite in the circle, not quite out. Her smile was barely a curve, controlled, mechanical. She lifted her glass, but didn't drink. Across the room, Natalie Lynn. Effortless. The kind of woman who wore coral lipstick and made it look executive. Her curls bounced when she laughed, and she laughed a lot, especially with him. Alec Mercer, mid-30s, soft-eyed. He wasn't flashy, not particularly tall, but he listened, really listened. And right now, he was leaning against the glass wall, one hand tucked in his pocket, the other holding a half-eaten cupcake, laughing with Natalie. Something about the way they stood. Too close, too familiar. Natalie brushed her hair behind her ear. Alex said something, too quiet to hear, and she laughed again. Then placed her hand on his arm, just long enough. That was the moment. Elena's knuckles whitened around her glass. It wasn't rage, not yet. It was smaller than that. A pinch, a pulse. The sinking feeling of watching something slip through your fingers before you even had the chance to hold it. Her eyes didn't move, but something inside her shifted. After the clapping, people began to file out. Chatter in the hallway, the faint sound of a kettle in the pantry. The celebration, like most things at Sable and Hart, dissolved fast. Natalie left her USB plugged in to the team computer. The final version of her presentation is still open on screen. Elena remained. She was alone now. Just her, the USB, and everything she didn't say. It would have been easy to walk away, to shut down the monitor, to close the door behind her, to go home and forget the way Alec looked at Natalie like she was sunlight in a gray office. But Elena didn't walk away. She stood there, hands still, face unreadable, but mind unraveling. It wasn't just about Alec. It never really was. It was everything. The KPIs, the late nights, the feeling of being almost seen, almost chosen, almost enough. She had poured months into the Evergreen pitch, crafted the market research, refined the copy. She stayed late most nights while Natalie floated home at 6. And yet, Natalie was the one on the screen. Natalie's name on the email. Natalie's face in the photos. Natalie's laugh in Alec's ears. Elena looked at the screen. The USB blinked, a faint blue pulse, waiting. She told herself it wasn't revenge. It wasn't sabotage. It was balance. A small correction. A nudge. Her fingers moved on their own. She reached for the USB, held it in her palm, felt the plastic warmth, the tiny insignia etched into its side. Then, she let it drop. Clack. Onto the tile floor.
The sound was soft, almost anticlimactic, but inside her, something cracked louder. She picked it up, inspecting the casing. A fine hairline fracture near the connector. Just enough. No alarms blared. No one came running. She slipped the USB back where it had been, took a breath, left the room. The door clicked shut behind her. Like a confession, no one heard. The next morning began like any other. Coffee cups, Slack notifications, the hum of the copier in the hallway. Natalie arrived a little late, as usual. Blazer slightly askew, hair in that effortless ponytail she always somehow made work. She greeted a few people on the way to her desk, laughing about some podcast she'd been listening to. Alec waved from across the floor. She smiled back. Elena didn't look up. At 9:20 a.m., Natalie plugged in the USB, the same one she always used, the one she trusted. Double-click, folder opens, sort by date. She clicked on the final presentation. Nothing. A loading wheel. Then, error. She frowned, clicked again. Corrupted file detected. She tried another file, and another. Each time, the same. The screen flickered. Her mouse froze. PowerPoint crashed. She pulled out the USB, plugged it back in. Still nothing. Her heartbeat quickened. Color drained from her cheeks. From her desk, Elena watched in silence. Didn't move, didn't blink. Just listened to the rising tension in Natalie's voice as she called over the team lead.
It's not working. I don't know what happened. It was fine yesterday.
More people gathered. The meeting was minutes away, and the file, gone.
Did you back it up?
Someone asked. Natalie blinked.
It was backed up. This is the backup.
Alex stepped in, concern on his face.
I have an earlier version on my laptop if that helps.
Natalie looked mortified, helpless, like someone standing in a burning house watching the exit close. The fallback presentation was used. It was fine, adequate, but not the one she worked 3 weeks on, not the one she'd polished until 2 a.m. the night before. After the meeting, the project manager pulled Natalie aside, tone cool, words clipped.
We expected better. You can't let this happen again. Clients don't care about excuses.
Alana walked past the conference room as Natalie sat inside, head down, barely speaking. She didn't feel better. She didn't feel worse. She just existed. Her silence was louder than her thoughts, and somewhere deep inside, something was beginning to curdle. The office moved on, as it always did. Deadlines reset. New clients entered the pipeline. Natalie kept her head down, pouring herself into the next pitch like nothing had happened. But something had shifted, not just in her, in the way people glanced at one another, in the air itself, like a hallway that remembered a scream long after the sound had faded. 2 days later, a message pinged in Elena's inbox. Subject, security footage review, workroom 4B. Sender, facilities and operations. She stared at it, didn't click, didn't breathe. It was probably routine, probably nothing, but the timestamp, it was from the night of the celebration. An hour later, she passed by the facilities desk, pretending not to notice the open monitor, but she did. She always noticed. A paused frame, low res, muted colors, her figure frozen mid-reach, a hand near Natalie's bag, a moment captured by the corner-mounted fisheye lens she hadn't accounted for. Not enough to convict, but enough to ask questions. At 3:45 p.m., HR called.
Can you come up to 6 for a quick chat?
Just that. No subject, no warning, no smile in the voice. She took the elevator alone. It was quiet, too quiet. Each floor blinked past like a countdown. By the time she stepped into the glass meeting room, 2 people were already seated. One from HR, one from compliance, and between them, a small black USB stick placed like evidence in a courtroom. Her throat tightened.
Do you know why you're here, Elena?
She shook her head once, but in her gut, she already knew. They didn't raise their voices. They didn't need to. Everything was clinical, measured, the kind of calm that made the walls feel thinner. The HR rep adjusted her glasses, then pushed a slim file across the table.
We've reviewed the surveillance footage.
We also ran diagnostics on the corrupted USB. There were signs of external damage to the hardware casing, scratches consistent with deliberate tampering.
A pause.
The drive was last seen functioning during the internal celebration. You were the last person in the room.
Elena said nothing. The man from compliance leaned forward, folding his hands.
You've worked here long enough to understand our zero-tolerance stance on sabotage.
Her lips parted, but no words came. She wasn't afraid. She was cold, frozen inside herself, like a window watching snowfall, unable to move, unable to melt.
Is there anything you want to tell us?
She blinked, once.
Maybe there was a misunderstanding. I didn't mean to. I didn't know.
They didn't flinch.
Intention doesn't matter when the outcome violates trust.
Another pause.
Because this isn't just about the USB, Elena. It's about company culture, about team cohesion, about integrity.
She looked down at her lap. Her hands were trembling now. No more control, no more composure.
Elena,
The HR woman said gently.
you violated a core tenet of our internal code. And unfortunately, this requires a visible response.
A door opened behind her. 2 more women entered. Neither of them wore name tags. They didn't speak, but one of them held something. A tray, and on it, a cape. Scissors, clippers. Her breath caught in her throat. Elena didn't speak, didn't scream. Not yet. She stared at the tray, at the steel glint of the scissors, at the buzz cut clippers beside them, humming silently, as if they already knew their role. The HR officer stood, voice low, measured.
As per Section 4.3 of the Internal Ethics Code, visible violations of team integrity require visible corrective action, a cultural reminder, a cautionary precedent.
Her legs weakened. She gripped the chair beneath her.
Please, please don't do this.
No response. Just the rustling of the cape, the quiet shuffle of the second woman stepping behind her.
I didn't mean to. It was just a mistake. Mistakes don't erase contracts.
The compliance officer said. The cape wrapped around her shoulders, snapped at the neck. She began to cry, quietly at first, then harder, tears leaking past her trembling chin.
Please, not this, not here, not in front of...
A mirror was wheeled in, so she could see herself.
No, please, I can't. I'll scissor it if it...
Her voice cracked, but no one moved. The scissors came first, cold metal gliding into the base of her bun, a sickening snip. Her hair, the one thing she controlled, presented, weaponized, collapsed in sections onto her lap. Then the clippers. They hummed, they vibrated, and they took everything, line by line, patch by patch. Her head bowed forward, tears falling like silent ink on paper. Her identity reshaped into something hollow, something stripped. When it was done, they unfastened the cape. Hair stuck to her cheeks, eyes red, her reflection unrecognizable. No applause, no sympathy, just a silent note in her HR file. Case closed. They left her in the room, alone, shorn, silenced. No one offered tissues, no one helped her up, no one said a word. Only the overhead light buzzed, a quiet, constant flicker. She stood slowly. Her knees trembled beneath her. The floor beneath her shoes felt like ice. In the glass panel next to the door, her reflection wavered. The girl staring back had no volume, no shield, no softness left. Just a raw, uneven scalp and a face blotched with tears. Her name tag still hung around her neck. Elena M., Strategy Associate. Outside, the world moved on. Slack pings echoed through the hallway. A printer spat out new agendas. Someone laughed near the kitchen, probably about lunch plans. No one looked twice as she walked past, as if she were just air. Maybe they knew. Maybe they didn't. It didn't matter. The message had been delivered. In the elevator, she pressed G. Her fingers still shook. Behind her, the security camera blinked. Always watching. Always remembering. When the doors opened, the receptionist didn't see her eyes. She just nodded, gently, almost kindly, as if to say, "You're not the first. You won't be the last."